Good morning, everyone. And you're perhaps wondering where I am this week. I have come out to the village of Glynde, which is part of a huge estate built up over centuries by 4 families. The Whaleys, the Morleys, the Trevors and the Brands. Now, the other week, I think when I was at Ripe and that, you joined me at silly past potty o'clock. Well, I started this morning's visit at silly 2 potty o'clock. And you can't come to Glynde, without having a night at the opera, except I'm not having a night at the opera. I'm having a morning at the opera, because this, of course, is the home of the famous Glynde Opera House. And there it is. This is the original Glynde Manor, or Glyndebourne Manor. I should call it Glyndebourne, really, shouldn't I? Not Glynde Opera. Glyndebourne, which was enlarged 3 or 4 decades ago now, I think, to be honest, with that big thing at the back, which a lot of people weren't happy about at the time, but it seems to have been accepted as part of it now. And this has developed into one of the go-to opera houses for people, mainly people with a bit of money. Years ago, trains from London used to make special stops here, and coaches would meet them, or hire cars would meet them at Glynde station and bring them up. I've had 2 or 3 occasions where I've had to take a coach down there to bring the orchestra and some of the opera goers up from there. Nowadays, I think it's all done from Lewis. You don't get any trains especially stopping at Glynde anymore. But, yep, out they'd all get in their penguin suits and make their way up here. Strawberries and champagne on the lawn of an evening. Nice if you can afford it, wouldn't it? Anyway, just thought I'd start the tour at the Glyndebourne Opera House. Getting posh, aren't I? Trouble with filming on a Saturday morning, so people do actually work early on Saturdays. But I'm standing at the top of the hill in Glynde. You can see why it was popular for chalk at one time. These South Downs full of the stuff. But of course this didn't just serve the Glynde pits, it also served the Glynde estate, which, as I say, was quite huge. And as we go down the road later on, you'll see that there's still all the cottages and that have the same coloured doors and that, so I should imagine, even if they are sort of privately owned now, they're on a lease or a covenant agreement. But anyway, as I said, the Glynde estate was built up by 4 families. And Glynde Place here was set up by the Morleys. In the early 16th century. You can see that there's quite an interesting clock up there. Yes, I did say silly 2 potty o'clock, didn't I? However, this used to be the way the sort of front of the house and the garden faced. Then along come Richard Trevor in the early to mid 18th century, and he rebuilt it. He was Bishop of Durham, by the way. And he rebuilt the house, turned it completely the other way round. So as we're looking here, this is the gateway now, and you'll see that one of the things that Mr. Trevor put up there were these, what they call wyverns, as you go into the grounds. and there are stables there and a coaching house, and then you go through into what is now the house and the garden. And that has an unusual feature. It's called a ha-ha. I'm told that they were often used when the British were imperialistic out, particularly in Africa and India, to stop wild animals getting onto your croquet lawn. Well, here it was probably built to stop the foxes and the deer. And the ha-ha is where you look across your lawn and you have an unbroken look out. But when you get to the edge of the lawn, you suddenly find there's a great big drop into a ditch. And very often there's a retaining wall sunk down in there. And any wildlife coming the other way will have like a gentle slope going down into this ditch, and then they find they can't get up onto the lawn. So that's a brief description of a ha-ha. There are so many listed buildings in this place. Again, like Firle and that. So you have to say British listed buildings is an excellent site for finding out more information about these buildings. Now there's been a church here for centuries, but this particular one again is another Trevor inspiration, built in Palladian style in the 18th century. And you've got this lovely lich gate here, which I'm not doing justice unless I move back to show you. There. And we have a Portland stone, I think that's the War Memorial in the corner there. And here on the wall, particularly relevant as this week, is the celebration. No, I mustn't call it a celebration, there's nothing to celebrate about war. The commemoration of the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And I wonder if any of those brave gentlemen down the bottom were involved in it. But anyway, let's go take a closer look, shall we? Yes, I'm pretty sure that's the War Memorial made out of Portland stone there. Not a cosmos about. This is it's certainly a very interesting style of church for an area like this. And there's design above the door there. I don't of course expect to be able to get inside at this time of the morning. Why on earth I got inside that church the other week, I don't know. Ah, there we can see a bit more clearly. I'll get closer. Trevor had 2 wyverns made, and there they are. Look at that. I have been in there years and years and years ago. Bought a coach party over. Cool, you try finding somewhere to park your coach around here. I'm not going to go wandering around the churchyard. There is a path of sorts been mown here, but the rest of it sadly seems to be in some case of disrepair. Hard to believe that in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Glynde was really a hub of activity, agriculture, and again the chalk pit trade, which I'll talk about in more detail later. And there's a private entrance into the into Glynde Place. I think if I walk along here, oh, I'm glad they cut this grass. Mind the stinging nettles. So we walk along here, you can see a bit more of the house, fine place. Walled garden. There we are. And a pheasant in the distance. That's Glynde Place. Now, there is some coloured glass there, but most of the original Flemish glass that was put in this church was removed. I don't know why the Victorians like to do that. They seem to have a thing for taking away good quality stained glass and replacing it with clear or some rather poorer version. But I understand that some of the glass, the original Flemish glass, is in Glynde Place. But I'd love to be inside to see what these designs are, because the Victorians certainly didn't replace this stuff with clear glass, did they? That's plainly obvious. Interesting. Maybe the information I read was wrong. Maybe some of this is Flemish glass. Answers on the postcard, please. You know, I'm always grateful to receive polite comments to say, look, you know, Bernie boy, you've got that a little bit wrong. We never stop learning, and we learn from each other. That's the way I like to look at it. So please, as I say, do, if you have any other information, do give us a shout and share it with us. Milkman's on his rounds. Right, that's this little bit of the journey over. There's another little cemetery in here which appears to be somewhat better kept. The rectory of Glynde came under the control of the Normans / French until the Battle of Agincourt, and then one of the Henrys grabbed hold of it, and he gave it to the Dean and Chapter of Windsor, and apparently they to this day still hold some kind of custodianship, or whatever you like to call it, patronage if you like, over the parish. That building is called Trevor House, and I think that's the old rectory, but I'm not sure. I'll need to double check on that. And now of course people are starting to get up and about. One of the things you will notice as we go down through is the colour of these doors. It reminds me of the Cowdray Park. Is it Cowdray Park at Midhurst? Yeah, all their doors have to be this garish yellowy orange colour, as I remember correctly, and all the doors around here are this kind of blue, which is a better colour really. One of the industries, of course, being in an agricultural area, is dairy, and unfortunately this isn't a dairy now, but until about the late 70s, early 80s, it was certainly an operating dairy. It's still there, but obviously it has new owners now. I'm just drifting down through here in the car because it really is far too far to walk up and down the hill for me to get to the car. But look at this lovely house here. Isn't that nice? I think what I'm going to have to do is to see if I can look up some of these houses and maybe put captions on them. These houses here, 1782. They're obviously estate workers because this was before the chalk industry came. Now, I've mentioned before, or have I? No, I haven't. I don't think. Anyway, we're actually here on an old turnpike road, Ranscom's Lane, which I'm just about to go down there. Was the original turnpike from Lewis. You could get to Eastbourne on it, but I'm pretty certain this is the one. You might remember in a previous video I was talking about Chidinloy, and I found that toll house right in the middle of Muddle's Green, and it didn't seem to refer to anything. And then I said, I wonder if that's on the one that comes from Battle and goes across to Lawton and Ringmer. But by the looks of it, it is that one that then came down over through here and on into Lewis, and you could get to Eastbourne, but you had to go all the way up the Golden Cross area to come back down to Eastbourne. And so when somebody had the bright idea to put a turnpike across the Mars, straight across where the A27 is now, that shaved 7 miles off the journey. Unbelievable. Anyway, there's some more older cottages. You see once again some of these would all originally have been estate workers' cottages years and years and years ago. We saw the date on the other one up there, late 18th century. And then, as I say, towards the late 19th century, you had the chalk industry, because cement was becoming in fashion. Concrete, cement, call it what you like. And so we had the three chalk pits and a clay pit, as I was talking about later. There was a door there, but this is what I've come to see in this particular section. The old post office, isn't that lovely? It's still in use, but the thing that I earn the most brownie points for, and you've got to give me 10 for this, you have to give me 10. A post box, sort of set in the wall, but it's not set in the wall. Letters containing coin or any article of value should not be posted in this box. And you have the bottom bit of it down here. Excuse me. I don't think I have ever seen an example of that. Looks like they have little tea rooms in here as well. The little cottage tea room. Oh, lovely. Look at that. And here we have typical cottages and gardens. I'm just walking along this road a little way because, like I say, so many of these houses, Orchard House there on the end, are listed. You know, I wonder sometimes just how early you have to get up in the morning. I had hoped to film with another sunrise, but it's cold and the cloud is coming over. So I think I'm probably going to have to... See, this is what you see all over the place around here. Glynde Estates, private property, no public right of way. Now, I'm not sure how close I dare get to this, but here we have another truly old building. Let's have a look. They call this simply the thatched cottage. You see that lovely bird bath in the garden there. Wow, look at that. See, these things are worth getting up early in the morning for. I was up at 4 this morning to get out and film this. Isn't that lovely? Well, we're looking across it. Brigden's Pit. One of the 3 chalk pits that I have talked about before. Brigden's, Balcombe and Glynde. And now look, 100 years or so nearly later, after it all finished, it's probably a nice nature reserve in there, but that's a worked out pit for you, a chalk pit. There's a pheasant in the field. What I'm hoping to find as I walk along here, though I'm not holding out an awful lot of hope, is the parapet of the I can't find out whether it was a bridge or a tunnel that went underneath this road. This is Ranscombe's Lane. It went underneath here and into Brigden's Pit. And I know that at least a few years ago there was still a bit of the stone wall left. But it doesn't seem to be here anymore. Unless it's this bit up here. Because there's a gap between the... Success. Absolute success. Here we are. Here's the wall. And when you look down there, that is where the line came up from the west of Glynde Station, across the river, across the marsh, and up here underneath the roadway. And it must have been a tunnel, because quite frankly I don't believe that hillside would have been built up in 100 years or so. So it is indeed a remarkable survivor. Oh, that's a brownie point for me. Yeah, it had to be a tunnel. Rather a... no. Or was it? No, it wasn't. Because I'm looking across here and yeah, there's, can you see just in there, there's the wall this side, and if I raise the camera you'll see where the line went in there and through into the pit. Now that is something I never expected to find. This was built in the late 1870s, 80s. Probably didn't last much longer than 30 or 40 years before everything closed down. Ooh, I'm quite pleased with myself with that. This is part of the old turnpike road I was talking about earlier. And you can probably hear the sound of the traffic. Going along the A27. Wow. Brigden's Pit. Malthouse Cottages. 1863. Sure. There's a hell of a commotion going on up in that tree there. Looks like a wood pigeon has got stuck. Would have fighting with another one. Huh? Blimey. Really having a go. Forge cottage. Now they're all calling. Now here is the blacksmith's forge, and it's still in use as a blacksmith's forge, which I think is absolutely incredible. But this was also a wheel obviously would have been a wheelwright. Do you know how I can tell? Because that's only the second one I've seen in recent times. And the wheelwright would lay out the wheel on that round there, and that's what he would use to put the metal rim of the wheel on and cool it to shrink it and harden it onto the wheel. The only other one I've seen was when I filmed one of my Jack Hargreaves series of videos, where I found his surprise place where he found the dipper. And there, if you remember, I think it's a rather nice colour. It's not. It doesn't stick out in your face like others.
As I'm talking here about the front doors, I should have mentioned that.
Oh, to this cloud. I came out because I thought we were going to get a sunrise. And these are Hampden Gardens. And I'm not sure, but certainly in the 70s, early 80s, the estate was held by one of the families which were given the accolade of Lord Hampden, and I guess maybe the occupant now still is a Lord and or Lady Hampden.
Indeed, that is the case. The occupants, if you like, of the manor and estate at Glynde were brought back into the peerage in the late 19th century. And this was the Brand family, descendants, I think, of Henry Trevor. To this day, Glynde Place is the seat of Viscount Hampden, who is one of the Brand family, and I would assume that they still own the whole of the Glynde estate, which is why all these doors are painted in that blue colour, and you see signs all over the place saying private property, Glynde estate. So yes, indeed, Lord and Lady Hampden still live in Glynde Place and raise a bit of money from time to time by opening it to the public, as you might realise. So that solves the mystery of the Viscounts of Hampden, well, Viscount Hampden. There you go.
This is the Glynde Social Club. Not sure whether it was a school or not. I don't think so, because there's supposed to be a school cottage somewhere, but I haven't found it on my walk this morning. But anyway, there's a building in front of us there with that white chimney, which I'll tell you about in a short minute.